It means to a buyer is right now you want to buy a house for $400, you're going to spend $2,100 a month for the payment.
Okay.
$1,600 in April, so you went up $410.
So it's your cost of living goes up dramatically buying a bigger house in a sense.
Well, the rate went up
because the rate of interest for the
interest
piece of
rate
debt.
Right now, with Trump,
are we rolling?
We are rolling.
Oh, awesome!
Okay.
This is so
With
valuable.
Trump,
Holy moly!
With Trump's idea of going to 6.25 by March,
Okay.
now that 400 house, which you just purchased for $2,000 a month in May,
Yeah.
$2,300 a month in September, by March could be $2,800. So it bumps a lot of people out of their price category. They don't qualify. So now they say to the seller, if you lower your price $50,000, we'll buy it.
We'll buy it. Do you think that psychologically then, culturally, that lowers prices because of that impact?
Correct, because of the impact. So now they think like if we don't
That's
lower,
interesting.
if we don't lower,
Because they have their expectations set?
yes,
Oh, that's so psychological.
it is, and they're
That's
looking.
culture.
It's culture, and they're looking ahead. They're saying, well, if we live here 2 years and we have to sell it, we want to factor in that. We want to factor in that loss factor, because the average buyer today that's 25 years old, they heard their mom and dad 10 years ago in the market crash of 08. You know, the parents are running around going crazy. We paid $650 for this house. It just dropped to $475. We owe $525. We can't get your college funds together. So we're having a really hard time. They hear it. They heard it. They were 15 years old.
Yeah, it's
they heard
into
it.
their
Like,
psyche.
Mom, why are we moving out of this house? All my friends are here. Well, honey, you know, we can't afford it, so we're going to have to rent. And we saw so many terrible things where that 2008 / borderline depression, not recession, lost so many people their homes, where not because they didn't work, but because they purchased the house for $500 in 05. By 09, they got laid off, or something happened, or they had a transfer and they were stuck with it because it dropped. The invention word.
Interesting.
Short sale was invented. It came out of nowhere. So everyone would say, what is a short sale? I'm like, a short sale is when you owe more than what your house is worth, and the lovely bank is willing to eat it. So...
And they eat it because they're going to repackage it?
Because they don't want you to walk away from the home.
Okay.
They'd rather lose $80,000 than $400,000.
Makes sense.
And leave them abandoned. So then the short sales in 2012 started coming to the market. They started being listed by the banks. They started flipping them, okay? So then all the lovely television shows that came out, the reality shows, you know, make your home look like this, that created excitement for flippers.
And that's propaganda in a way.
It is.
Unconsciously. It directs our behavior.
It's affected because now people feel they're not buying a home to raise a family, enjoy their time. All they're worried about is, what am I going to get for it in a year or two?
Because quick.
Everything's quick. And they want to know what they're going to get in 2 years. I'm like, well, don't you want to live in it for a while? No. Well,
so is that what your experience then is? It's totally changed the ethos in 36 years.
Yes.
It's like talking to two different people. What's going to happen?
I think what's happening now, most folks, not all, and again, I don't want to generalize categories of age, but my millenniums that are 21 to 30 years old, 50% of them would love to own, but they're a little bit nervous about the responsibility and what's going to happen if we go into another recession. I don't want to lose this house. So they want me to guarantee, or at least tell them, that the home they just bought is rentable. It's feasible, that they're not going to get themselves in a jam where they're going to buy a home for X amount
Yeah.
and lose all their
So
their
based
equity.
on that psychology, that culture,
Yes.
and what's going on way up top affecting
Yes.
rates,
Yes.
that could slow down the market.
It
and
could
then
slow
drop
down them.
and then drop the pricing psychologically.
It's psychologically.
That's some syllogism.
And buyers today think that every home has to be perfect. They don't want to deal with repairs.
So new is the new. Mm-hmm. It's the only way.
When I was 25, I never went in a house and went to the utility room and saw the heater. Is the heater new? I'm like, no, the heater's 10. Oh, now it's like, oh, is the roof new? No, it's 6. Oh. It's like, to me, that's new. It's like you got 20 more years left, you know?
So what, are we just going to not use the older houses at all?
They look at these older homes like, what am I going to do with them? So, again, we have the extreme, and then we have the folks that love old.
Okay.
They redo old. They get into it.
However, is that like a niche more
That's
so
a
now,
niche.
where it used to be a norm?
That's more of our early baby boomer crowd,
Okay.
our 40 to 50-year-old crowd.
Okay.
They're tackable, I call them. They're tackling different projects. They enjoy it. But I mean, not to pick on the millenniums, but I really haven't met many 21 to 25-year-olds that want to do any work.
Interesting.
And they want an easy living. Don't want the car anymore. We want to be as close to the train, and we want to walk to everything. So the downtown districts, that's why your Miamis, your Fort Lauderdales, your Austin, Texas, your Dallas, all these little places, Phoenix, have become so popular because.
What do you think this is going to do to the more rural areas and the communities in those, based on what you're seeing? Because you're dominating. It's the South Jersey space, right?
Yeah,
the
South
which is
Jersey,
right outside of Philly.
Right. Well, what's good about our market is, if I picked up the average home in this area and moved it over the bridge, you're looking at 25% more for the house. The taxes will be less. Okay, so our tax structure here for 500 to 700, you're looking at 15 to 20 grand. Pennsylvania, you're looking at 8 to 12 grand tax bill. However, what you get here for 500 is 700 in Pennsylvania.
Got it.
So you're paying it on the price, not on the upkeep. So I think more folks look at what the monthly payment is than they do the outlay of the 30-year, because they don't stay that long anyway.
That's interesting.
So that's what they look at. They look at the average home buyer today, and I'll share something with you that you'll love this part about the culture and the psychology.
Okay, yeah.
I have been interviewing my 20 to 30-year-old buyers. How long do you want to stay in the house? Maybe 3 years.
Wow.
I'm like, well, where do you want to go after that? Well, I think we would probably like to move somewhere that's a little more cultural or maybe easier. I'm like, what do you mean easier? Somewhere where we don't have to have a car.
That's
So
really
they're-
what's...
They're stuck here because this is where their job got them. So they drive to Philadelphia, that 50-minute commute. They get on the train. They come home to little South Jersey. They like it. This is still a great little niche, because we've got the Atlantic City, we've got the New York, we've got the Philadelphia. We really have a lot to offer in a short travel time.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're a little everywhere.
Right. But at the same time, what I'm seeing is the migration is easier. That's what put Philadelphia way ahead of us, because it made it easier. But what I am starting to find out from surveys, and I just had a phone call today from an attorney friend of mine. He said, Val, my daughter's 30. She's a newlywed. They went to Center City. They loved it. But just recently, they don't want to be there anymore. They're tired of the noise. The crime seems to have become a little more...
It's getting more congested as well.
Congested. And the prices for what you get is out of reach for
Because
the average.
getting a little inflated in a sense.
A little inflated.
Is that spillover from New York and investors and other things? Like,
yes.
That's where that macro conversation comes in.
Exactly.
It's like New York is half China.
Exactly.
It's out, international
it's out
money
there.
now.
It's international. And we're getting more and more New York homeowners, North Jersey, making the hour-and-a-half commute.
I'm hearing this.
We just settled on a house. The gentleman works in Manhattan 3 days a week. He can work from home the other 2.
Oh, and that's another thing, because people are working from home. It's changing everything.
Mm-hmm.
They can live wherever the heck they want.
They are like, we are not moving to North Jersey up near Hoboken or Orange County or New Brunswick. The house that we
Which is what they used to do.
Everyone went up there. So it has helped our market. We're praying for Amazon to come to Philadelphia and save us. But, it's like, because I think what's going to happen, most of the folks will come over the bridge because they're going to get more house for the money. And our houses here are newer. We have a lot of homes that are 15, 20, 25, 30 years old, where, again, when you get out to the main line, you've got a lot of 50, 60, 70-year-olds.
Yeah.
Another thing, this is a good thing. Guess what's becoming popular again after all these years? You might not remember this style home, Splitlevels.
Wow.
They're returning to the popularity of a young buyer.
Do you think it's because they're okay with the co-working kind of thing, co-living kind of thing?
They like the multi-level. Where before there was a period, couldn't sell them. No, I don't want a split level. Oh no, I don't like them. But now we're starting to see these young couples take the split level, vault the ceilings, because a lot of them already had 10-foot ceilings. They were before their time.
Okay.
Built in 1962. So the builder had no idea he was building a home with the design of 2015 in it.
That's interesting.
It was like, we didn't notice it. We didn't go in the house and ask the builder, are there 9-foot ceilings? No. Our big thing in 1962, and again, I was only 6, but I remember my parents shopping for a home 64 to 65. We bought a split level. Their big thing was a garage, 1.5 baths, and central air. That was, my dad was like, is central air included? Because we had window units. And my mom was thrilled that we could eat in the kitchen. Because most of the homes were built, you had to eat in the dining room. We didn't ask the builder, do they have 9-foot ceilings? Okay, is there a jacuzzi tub? It was like, we didn't bring anything up like that. Does it have Wi-Fi? Does it have FiOS underground? So, none of this was
So it's almost like
invented.
it went from necessity to auxiliary.
Exactly.
In the culture.
So the home came with 9-foot ceilings in the 60s.
So you're seeing more of that, people actually utilizing it. And what are they looking for?
Go in those old homes.
Okay.
Go in those old homes, 100, 150 years old. They were all 10, 15-foot ceilings in Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah.
But that was something that came that way. But no one thought of it. Then as the economic crunch of the 70s, the gas shortage and all these problems in the 70s and 80s, and the heating expenses were through the roof. Believe it or not, 1981, I had a gas and electric bill on a 2-bedroom home. My first home I ever bought was $500 a month. That's what my electric and gas was. Today, I live in a house double the size, and I pay $280.
Interesting.
So the electric and gas has really come down.
Well, and
in
what do you think is
price.
going to happen is this solar and those types of
Solar's
things
big right now.
start coming into fruition. It's like it's becoming more available to have the basic essential needs. So that affects then the culture of home buying.
The solar's like the electric car.
Yeah, which is then causing people to not even want cars, which causes them to change their buying patterns with real estate.
The electric car is easy for the consumer.
I saw an electric car delivering a pizza on Facebook in California.
Was anyone
for
driving
Domino's.
it?
No, it was an automatic.
It was an automatic delivery.
AI delivery.
Oh, God.
What's that going to do?
Oh, boy, that's going to be unreal. No one in it. Where do you put the money in the glove compartment?
It did like a big song, like, here we are, and then the window came down and the pizza came out.
Oh, my God, you got to be
This
kidding
is the future. Were you always abstract in the sense of like very competent, studying your stuff, and then looking in the future?
Yes.
Like when I was in school, I didn't really pay attention. However, I would do, the numbers in my head and whatnot, and then fail the test because I didn't want to finish the last part of it. But what was
Did you get distracted?
It was like I was never in it, if that makes sense. I was never in the game to get distracted. But yeah, what was I'm curious.
I took exams from the back forward. So
the
test was 60 questions.
Okay.
I looked at the first two. If they got on my nerves, I went to 60.
Interesting.
And I worked backwards. And I felt like I gained more energy by starting at the end of the test and working my way back to number one, because the first two questions put me in a bad state. Like I didn't know the answer.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? Don't start off on a bad foot. Don't start on a negative feeling. Go back, jump to 60, Val, and then see if you like that question. So maybe that question was like, I know that answer, and I went right to the multiple choice and circled it. Now I had good energy about it. I think that's what happens with the normal consumer, too. They go into a house, they go into a furniture store, they go into a restaurant. There's just a bad feeling right when they enter, or they start. You pull up to a house, you're like, oh, I don't like that color. They don't say it, but in their mind is already telling them, don't get out of the car, don't go in, don't waste your time. So there's these things that pull people in another direction. They try to fake it and act like they like it. They walk through the open house. What do you think of it? And then the realtor babbles on. It has an in-ground pool and it has a new heater. And meanwhile, instead of saying, is this your type of layout? Do you like this floor plan? What did you think of the front of it when you pulled up?
Interesting.
If the buyer says, well, I wasn't that crazy about it, then you just say to the client, you know what, maybe if this house isn't for you, why don't we sit over here I have my laptop and I have some other homes. What does this one, do you like this one? And if the consumer, see with me, I would immediately see it in their face. They were unattracted to the house, but they came in because the husband or the wife or the partner, or whoever they were, said, oh, let's just go in. So they go in and I'm like, I could see the face. I'm like, hi, I'm Val. Sign in here. Have you been looking long? Well, we just started. I will say, you don't like the front of the house, do you?
Interesting.
And they're like, no. How did you know that? Because I watched them walk up the street, get out of the car, and their faces were not like, they were like making and they were going like this, So when they get in, I read them. So now they feel like I connect with them. I connected with them. They understand. They know I understand what they're thinking. I'm not selling them something they don't like.
It reminds me of the test, you starting in the back. They're in the front. They have a bad experience, but you asking questions brings them back to the book.
Correct.
In the back of the book.
Right.
That's an engineer.
Oh, it's an engineer.
Engineers think that way. Elon Musk.
Oh, maybe I'm.
You're the Elon Musk of real estate.
I must have been in the wrong
I'm
business.
telling you, man. They start in the future and they go backwards.
They go backwards.
Well, it's interesting because I'm learning something. It's like they're taking the test.
Yeah.
They get those first two questions. They're like, you bring them to the back of the book with your questions, and you dig and you listen and you observe. It's powerful.
When I started out as a young kid buying a home, I was 21 years old, and I bought my first place. And then when I signed the contract, I went home. My parents were like, where were you? Somebody said they saw you in a real estate office. I'm like, who said that? Your sister told us. I'm like, what? And my dad and mom were livid. They're like, you're too young. You can't afford a house. I said, Dad, here's the story. You're paying me $350 a week. And I got qualified. He's like, I know, but you can't. You're 21 years old. You don't even understand how to maintain a home. And I sat there, and I went to bed that night, and I acted all like, I got this under control. I went to bed. I was sweating. I was like, I got on the phone with the realtor. And, we had those phones in our house where my mom could pick up her bedroom phone and listen in. Everybody's phone, we didn't have our own private numbers. It was all connected, you know. So I'm in my bedroom on my phone, and my mom and dad are listening from their room. And they're saying, and I'm saying to the realtor, I don't know if I should really go through with this. You'll lose your $1,000. Now, in 1979,
that's something.
$1,000 was 10 today.
Yeah, at least,
And I said, well, what about if I don't go through with it? She goes, Val, don't let negative influences bother you. I said, well, it was my parents. She goes, why don't they want you to be happy and get your first investment? I said, probably because I really am too young. She goes, well, you qualify, and I would go forward. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And I did. I bought a house at 21 years old, and I remember answering the door.
Wow.
And this is back when you could safely answer your door because people would walk around and introduce themselves. Is your father or mother home? I said, no.
Well, I talked to Mike. He was selling vacuums in that
They're
time.
Like, what? Yeah. I said, no, I own this house. They're like, what?
That's amazing.
And I was like, and I really enjoyed it. I had it for 2 years.
What kind of work were you in at the time? Were you real estate?
My parents owned a chain of liquor stores at the time, and I worked for my dad's liquor stores. I went from place to place.
Like Gary V.
Gary V, exactly, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
So
Were you young when you started in it, in the industry?
I was
like
18.
in high school? Oh, okay.
And
was that the first job?
Well, you won't believe this. I used to have an addiction. I had a hobby. It was an addiction of gathering new home site brochures at the age of 10.
Oh, this is fate then.
And Destiny. I have them in the office in a crate from 1974, 1972. And I made my grandparents drive me around, and they would pull up in front of the community, and I would run into the sales office and tell the salesperson, my parents are in the car, and they just want to get a brochure. Oh, no problem. And they would give me the brochure, and I would take it, put it in a folder, and save them. And from 10 to...
Wow.
Well, I've been collecting them since 10.
Holy moly.
I have brochures
got quite a bit, maybe.
with prices starting at $19,000. That's how far back
maybe
my
you should have bought all those houses.
I was fascinated with
that's fantastic.
About prices.
Wow.
So one day, I went to visit an 80-year-old builder who started when he was 30.
Is this at a young age? This was a young age.
This was like, well, I collected his brochures, but he never knew it.
Wow.
And one day I met his daughter at a fundraiser, and I said, I've always wanted to meet your father. He's a wonderful builder, and he was infamous in South Jersey with his designs and his creativity. Oh, Val, he would love to meet you someday. I brought the brochures. So I went to the house. They invited me for wine, and they're big Italian family, big spread.
So you're a teenager at this time?
This was like five years ago. He was 80 now.
Oh.
He was 30
like 5
when I
years
used
ago
to
from now.
He was
that's
30
powerful.
when I was 10.
Oh, that's powerful.
Gathering his brochures.
Wow.
And so now he's 80 and I'm 60.
Imagine that.
And I went and met him, and he goes, I started saying to him, do you remember when you built the Millwood model in 1970? For $29,900. Do you remember the Lexington? He's like, where are you getting these names from? I said, I have all your homes memorized from when I was 12 years old. It's impossible. I said, well, guess what? I have your brochures too. He goes, no one does. I don't even have them.
Except you.
I went in the car and I brought in a whole plastic thing and put him on the table. He was in tears.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Then he said to me, I said, I can name 50 homes you built in the 70s. He goes, Val, come on. You know what? He says to the wife, we have cash in the safe. Get $1,000 out. Put it on the table. He puts $100 bills. He says, now, you name 10 homes that I built between 1970 and 1980, and if you get the price right, I'll double it. I named them all, and the price I was accurate with the price. The brochures were down there in a crate. His daughter got the crate, put them out. Dad, here's this one. I named them all. So he was so impressed. Wait to hear this one. This was 5 years ago, at 75 years old.
Wow.
He went back and started building again at 80. And reintroduced models that he built 40, 50 years ago and brought them back again.
That's powerful.
And made them hip. So he took a house that he built in 70 that might have been boring and square and blew up the ceilings and redesigned it, but called it the same thing.
Interesting. Well, and there's such a culturally, you appreciated
I
that.
appreciate it.
And that energy transferred all these years later to reinvigorate someone.
He invented South Jersey. He made South Jersey exciting. We were a boring...
Because it was the aesthetic? It was all...
The aesthetics. He introduced contemporary to this area. We had no contemporary.
And maybe that could be underappreciated in that... In the normal architectural culture.
Everybody was into square and split levels and boxes.
Would you say that then real estate, in a sense, between people and the architecture is like art for you?
It's art.
It's your art.
It's my art. When I go in a house, I look at the house, not so much like how they painted it or what they've done, just the way it's designed and the feeling of it.
Wow.
And in fact, in some of my ads, it might say, just like a fine piece of art that is uncomparable and priceless to any other, this home duplicates it. That's some of my ads. And some realtors have tried to take some of my slogans.
Well, that's the best part of
they're priceless. Like, for instance, Mr. Canuso is the gentleman I'm talking about.
Okay. The builder.
The builder.
Okay.
In 1974, he invented a model that was a piece of art. It had a living tree in the foyer that went up 4 stories, living in the house, 9 levels. So when you came in, you're in an atrium.
Wow.
You open double doors. The house was $112,000 in 1974 in this area. That's equivalent to $800 now. Double door entry, 4-story glass atrium in the foyer of your home. You went to the right, you went up 2 steps in a living room. You went up 3 steps to a dining room, down 4 steps to a kitchen, up 3 steps to a family room that was vaulted upstairs that you could look. A spiral staircase took you to the upstairs. Big landing, 4 more bedrooms, another spiral staircase took you to another level, and then another spiral staircase from the master's suite to an art studio. And he called it the art studio. So I said, and I always wanted one. And
like an art studio?
Oh, the whole house. I wanted an Elysium.
Okay.
When I was like 25 years old, I dreamt of it.
Yeah.
So when I got into business, I was 26. I went down the street, and I parked my car on Whitehall Drive, and I went up to 112 Whitehall Drive, which it's still there. And I knocked on the door of an Elysium model, and I knocked on the door to the owner, and I said, "Excuse me, but I'm Val Nunnenkamp, and I've always wanted to see an Elysium, and now that I'm a realtor, I just thought I would give you my card and tell you I love your house so much. I've been admiring it since I'm 10 years old, and now I'm a realtor." And he goes, "I know your family. Your dad owns the liquor store, right?" I said, "Yes. Come in."
Wow.
I went in. He took me on a tour. 2 years later, he sold it, and he called me to sell it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was so into the house. He said, I've never seen a realtor so excited. He said, when you came into my home and you knew the name of the model, the builder, the history of how it was built, and why it was built in this area.
Why? Yeah.
It was called the Elysium. And the word Elysium, if you Google it, the Elysium is many roads blending into one. So it brought a lot of different people into one road. So it means that you're drawing a whole different kinds of people. And they're all coming this way, but they all end up on one road.
It's powerful.
And and Mr. Canuso called it that because he felt it was a house that was way ahead of its time to hold two families, which is what ended up happening. People brought in their in-laws, and we never.
So powerful.
It was powerful.
And that home is still there?
There's 8 of them built in
the
South
area,
Jersey. Only 8 people could afford them.
Wow, that's insane.
And then as the economy got tight in 1979, we went from a 7.25% rate to 11 very quickly. Mr. Canuso introduced a shrunken version of it. So it went from 7 levels to 5.
Okay.
And he called it the Elysium 2. And the price was $20,000 less. And so a few people bought them.
And they're still there?
They're still there.
Now, the real estate business, a lot of people get in the business for different reasons. It seems like this has been an interest, obviously, for you for almost your whole life. You've taken a very academic approach, it seems, in the market, understanding homes.
Yes.
Why? Is that your nature?
Well, I thought about that because I had a feeling that was going to be one of the questions that you were going to ask me. And
it seems rare.
It's rare.
I've interviewed a lot of people. It seems rare.
It's rare. I'm going to say...
It's good. It's great, actually.
8 to 12 years old, I knew I was going to be in this business.
Okay.
Somewhere in that age bracket.
That was your thought. I thought I was going to own laundromats.
I didn't know what it was called. I didn't really know that what I wanted to do was a real estate salesperson. So I guess maybe 9, 10 years old, my parents had a realtor come to the home.
Okay.
And of course, back then, kids were to be seen but not heard. That was
changed.
the famous word.
Okay.
My father said, we're having company. You can be seen but not heard. I'm like, okay, so I'll have to get masking tape out. And they would be like, oh, because I always had something to say. And then I would walk through the house with a thing of masking tape in my hand while they're interviewing the realtor. I would walk through with
Instigator.
tape. Then I'd go through again with scotch tape, masking, all kinds of tape. And then my father would be sitting there like this, like, and then I'd be like, oops, I forgot something in the kitchen, sorry. And I'd have a thing of tape. So, but I would listen around the corner to the realtor, and she would say, this is the first realtor I ever heard. Well, let's walk through the house, Oh, I was like, this is great. And I would hear her make comments, and my dad says, well, we just, replaced the heater, and, our roof's 3 years old, and, the whole time, all my dad kept pinching was, what do you think we're going to get? When are we going to get to the numbers? And I thought to myself, Dad, what are you picking on the person for? They didn't even see the house yet in my mind. So I already knew stuff about the business.
You were already figuring it out.
So.
Well, you're 9 at 8, 9?
8, 9.
Wow.
So when she left, I sat there and I gave them a lecture. I said, listen, I'm embarrassed. You terribly insulted that realtor. Why? I said, because you're so used to the liquor. He tells me this. He's 86 years old. Still tells me the story. He said, well, look. I said, Dad, you were in the liquor store business. Everything was fast. It was cash and carry. The people came in, all the prices were set. That was $4. That was $3. Ice was 49 cents. You had all your prices out. Real estate changes fast. I said, it goes from this to this. The realtor was afraid to tell you a price the day they saw your house because she really didn't have enough time to go back and figure out the numbers for you, because every home is different. You have a different feet. You know, we had a pool.
Yeah.
I said, so she has to calculate all this.
Hold on, you're thinking this at 8?
About
like 9?
Yeah. I know. And
this makes me happy, though. I like this. This is great.
Real estate.
This is awesome.
My team will tell you, I have real estate magazines dated back in the 60s and 70s.
Wow.
And newspaper articles.
Okay, so you were reading these types of things?
Yes.
When you're younger?
I was reading
and ever since?
9, 10 years old. Yeah.
Well, do you read things other than real estate?
Mm-hmm.
What are some disciplines you like to study? It seems psychology or some form of, you have a draw to it. You can see things.
Yeah, I'm very into conserving history.
Okay.
Old buildings, so I'm very fascinated with that. And I'm very fascinated with the environment. Like I do a lot of research on, what they're doing now with the world and trying to keep up with the, nature conservatory group.
Would you consider yourself, in a sense, a naturalist in a way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm very, very into recycling and all. I get very nervous if I go to a house and the people have like a plastic bottle and they throw it in the regular trash. I'm like, oh, or the worst part about my business is if I go on an appointment and I'm like, oh, they're like, Val, something's on your jacket. I'm like, oh, where? Oh, looks like cat hair. I'm like, oh, darn it. Ugh, we don't like cats. And I'm like, you have to be, when you're a realtor, you have to bite your tongue over and over and over because people spill things out. We hate dogs.
Was that difficult for you in the beginning?
Cats. Yeah, and I've learned to use reverse psychology on the folks.
Okay. And
I said, let me just share something with you about your home. What do you mean? I'm like, what about if I came in your house and I said, I hate your decor? Or I hate your furniture that you chose. You would take that very hurtfully. But you would also want to know why the person said it. So when you say to me you hate cats, I take that personally because I have 2 cats. They're like my kids. So just tell me why you said it. Why do you say you hate cats? Oh, I don't know. I guess they pee everywhere. I'm like, that's not necessarily true. That's like saying you don't have a baby because they're going to go in their diaper and you have to change it.
It's a good
point. You have to maintain the cat like you have to maintain the child. So that means you hate kids too? No, we never said that. I'm like, well, that's what you don't like dogs. Your wife said she doesn't like dogs. Why not? They bark, and we hear our neighbor's dog. They bark night after night. I said, well, maybe they're lonely or they're depressed. You should call the SPCA and report it. Don't put it on the dog. Put it on the people.
This conversation happening before the presentation means you're hired to sell.
I'm at their listing. I'm in their appointment.
You've already sold them on that.
And then I get into the house. I'm like, now that we're talking honestly with each other, your house is dated. This is a good time to break the ice. They're like, what? 1 minute. I said, your house is dated.
I love it.
They're like, you're kidding me. I said, no one will want it. Oh, well, what do you think we should do to it? I said, we're going to bring a crew in and rechange the whole decor and remake it look so nice that it's going to be a beauty when you're done. I'm going to tell you right now, if I was smart enough, in 1982, I created staging.
I like that.
And nobody believed me. I said, I'm going to start a company. I'm going to come in and make the house beautiful, then list it. Oh, Val, no one's going to go for that. They're not going to spend money to get the house looking. I said, no, I'm talking new carpets, new bathroom vanities, new this, new that. No one's going to do it. You're wasting your time, so I put it on the back burner. I could have come up with a show in 82, 83.
The best form of flattery is copying, right?
I tell people like it is, and that's all there is to it.
That was my last question to you. Would you say you've lived your life and you would recommend to someone, tell the truth?
Always. Always tell the truth. I probably lost $300,000 plus in commission in my life. Probably $300,000 by now if I added it all up, because I passed on a home that I didn't believe in. They wanted X. I did research and felt it was worth Y. I tried to work with them, and I sat there and I said to myself, if I met the buyer and I had the seller, and as a dual agent, I had the seller here, the buyer, I go outside, and I'm getting in the car, and a person stops and says, oh, I didn't see that sign there an hour ago. Oh, I just put it up. And they go through the house. This seems high to me. And I'd be like, oh, you think it's high? Why? Well, I don't know. I've looked around, and this seems like a lot of money. This seems overpriced. How can I stand there now and tell that buyer that he's not right?
Wow.
I can't. If I didn't believe in it, if I don't believe, some homes, just like I have rubber bands. I might not have one in my pocket today, but I take a rubber band with me on a listing, and I give it to the person. They grab it. I'm like, pull it. What's this for? I'm like, take the rubber band. And I pull it, and it's going like this. Yeah, and they're like, oh, it's going to break. I'm like, hold that thought. That's an overpriced home.
Huh.
The mind of a buyer, the rubber band is ready to break. You lost them because you stretched your price so far out of line, they don't want it now.
Wow, that's powerful.
And they're like, I never thought of it that way. I said, everything has a number. So when I do your analysis, it's accurate to the day. The market goes up, the market goes down. For now, it's 529.
Wow.
Can we start at 539? I'm like, you could start at 2.6 if you want. But you took the rubber band and went 4 blocks down the street with it. What do you think it looks like? You know, I said, so where do you want to end it? If I say 529 and you say 539, let's try 2.8 and see what happens. Well, that's way too high. I said, so is 539. That's way too high. You went over the limit. I like 519. That's 10 under. But now I said, but that's good in a hot market. Because if you go 519, you may get 550. Because you created 5 people that wanted it, and it went over list.
Psychologically,
it caused more excitement.
Yeah.
Then it's fair. It's fair to sell it to the buyer because they wanted to overpay. I didn't force them to overpay. They wanted to.
They made a decision.
So
telling the truth and knowing what you know.
Telling the truth, and I've walked away from many.
Wow.
And I've been fired. I've been in a house 2 minutes. We don't like you. I'm like, oh, why? I don't know. But you can get your coat and leave. Because that first 3-4 minutes in the house, they sensed that I was too good and honest. They wanted someone that was going to work with them, you know? Let's get the magic potion out. So I was talking to them, like, you know, about just different things, like walking around, and we sit down. We don't think we're going to be able to work with you.
Val, tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah. Just tell us that you'll get us 100 over fair.
Tell us whatever it takes, and we'll give it to you.
And let's hide the termite damage. I'm like, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you were to go back 36 years and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be? In the capacity of real estate and all the things that you've dealt with.
work smarter, more efficiently, and do more for myself that is going to be able to give my energy a boost to where I could have shared a lot more with the consumer. Because what happened is I worked 80 hours a week.
Wow.
And we didn't have internet. We didn't have lock boxes. We didn't have electronic keys. We didn't have faxes. We really didn't have any way of communicating. And the energy spent, because I was always so thorough, I would drive around at night dropping off brochures and folders.
Wow.
And I wasn't thinking early enough to get someone to help me do it.
So like admin.
And
operations.
Then yes.
Sooner.
Then I waited till in '89. I started hiring people to work for me, and I spent 7, 8 years doing the work of 4 people because I was afraid to allow someone else to help me. I was a control freak, and I wish I could back up because I think my business would have even been even bigger.
Today
earlier.
you do interview though, and you are open to that. So people watching this,
I have.
If you want to learn everything really quickly, I've learned so much in 40 minutes. I don't want you to be late for your appointment because you're still working.
Thank
I
you
have learned so much. You're a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you.
I look forward to us building a relationship. Wow.
I love it. I love interviews. I love sharing.
Yeah, you're extremely intelligent, man.
Thank you.
It's like ridiculous.
Thank you so much.
Seriously,
one thing about me, I won't keep something that could help a new person in the business secretive. Like if I overhear a new agent that doesn't work for me, but they're sitting in a room and they're sort of mixed up or confused about something, I will give them the right information and get them on the right road. Lot. They learn stuff.
You ever heard of Robert Sapolsky?
Yes. Yeah.
You remind me of him.
Oh, you
yeah, seriously.
Somebody is.
Yeah.
Well, you people have told me.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's a compliment.
That's funny.
Yeah. He's a great teacher. So if I was an agent and I was coming to this business, there's a few people I want to learn with, and you definitely be top.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you.
It's a lot of information.
Thanks.
And that's what makes people confident.
I look at it as they call me the walking paper towel roll. Because I keep absorbing information and I don't write it down or put it anywhere.
You just got it.
And I said, well, maybe I invented Bounty. But
that's so funny, actually.
But I just have, even when I go on an appointment, the customers will be so, I just come out with it. I mean, I don't even know where it comes from. But even today, at this 5 o'clock appointment or 5:30, when I visited these folks last week for the first time, I went in the house and I looked at the woman that was sitting there. She might be 75-ish. I said, you look so familiar to me. She goes, I do? I said, yeah. I said, were you a realtor before in your old life? She goes, yes, I was. I said, in the 60s? She goes, yes. This is scaring me. How do you know this? Not many people know that.
Wow.
I said, I remember you. You did my best friend's house in Cherry Hill in 1965. I'm telling you, I thought that she was going to fall out. She's 79 years old now. And I remembered her when she was 25. Just from her smile, I guess.
Amazing.
I don't know.